Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chicago PD boss confirms crossover tension between Voight and Severide. Chicago's crossover event will be the most ambitious in franchise history. Fans have never gotten to see a storyline that so thoroughly integrates every character across all three shows. This is especially exciting with regard to the veteran characters. The promo for the crossover event confirms that established Chicago faces will be leading the charge. Some of them will be put in harm's way, like Stella Kidd, Miranda Ray Mayo, and Adam Ruzek, Patrick John Pfluger, while others will be running around and trying to save them. The fact that Kidd, a Chicago Fire character, and Ruzek, a Chicago PD character, will be in danger means that their respective teams will be forced to work together to ensure they have it out of their situation in one piece. Unfortunately, the process of joining forces is not going to be super easy, especially when it comes to Kelly Severide, Taylor Kinney, and Hank Voight, Jason Begg. One Chicago Center was fortunate enough to speak with Chicago PD showrunner Gwen Sigan about the crossover event, and the tension that exists between Severide and Voight in particular. She made it clear these two are going to be butting heads throughout the crossover, given how concerned they are for the well-being of their respective peers. Sigan alluded to the checkered past that Voight has with Firehouse 51, and the way that impacts the way he is perceived by the firefighters. The way that the actors play it, and also the way that everyone deals with Voight. I think it never leaves anyone's head, all the past that they have, she noted, and so you'll see conflict for sure. The showrunner also noted that Firehouse 51, and Severide in particular, is wary of Voight's penchant for cutting corners. They know he will break the law if it suits his goal, and they are not going to be complicit in any such action, especially during such a dire situation. You know, Voight's known to cross lines when he needs to, and that's definitely not how characters on the other shows operate all the time, Sigan added. Voight has made attempts to follow a stricter set of rules and principles in recent seasons of PD, so it'll be interesting to see how the characters' changes are perceived by the fire squad. The important thing, of course, is that they get their people to safety, and few leaders are competent than Severide and Voight. The sun hung low over Chicago, casting an amber glow on the city's iconic skyline. It was the kind of evening that invited reflection, but for Sergeant Hank Voight, reflection was a luxury he couldn't afford. The intelligence unit was knee-deep in an operation that blurred jurisdictional lines, and the last thing he needed was tension, especially with someone as formidable as Kelly Severide. The crossover event had been months in the making, born out of necessity rather than choice. A string of arsons tied to a suspected drug trafficking ring had forced Firehouse 51 and the intelligence unit to work together. The stakes were high and the pressure was mounting. Voight's office at the district was a cluttered testament to his no-nonsense style. Maps, photos, and case files were pinned to the walls in a chaotic mosaic of crime-solving. As he reviewed the latest intel, a sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. Without waiting for an invitation, Kelly Severide strode in, his confident gait a stark contrast to Voight's brooding intensity. "We need to talk," Severide said, his voice steady but edged with irritation. Voight leaned back in his chair, sizing up the firefighter. "About what?" "About you stepping on my team's toes," Severide replied. "You've got officers showing up at fire scenes unannounced, questioning my people. It's not how we do things." Voight's lips curled into a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "How we do things doesn't always get results, Severide. Sometimes you've got to bend the rules to catch the bad guys." Severide's jaw tightened, "and sometimes bending the rules gets people killed. My team's priority is saving lives, not playing detective." The room seemed to shrink as the two men locked eyes, their unspoken challenge hanging in the air. The tension was palpable, a clash of alpha personalities unwilling to yield. Both men were used to being in control, and neither was eager to compromise. "Look," Voight said, breaking the silence. "I get that you're protective of your team, but this isn't just about fires. These guys are dangerous. They've already taken out 2 witnesses. If we don't stop them, more people are gonna die. And you think I don't care about that?" Severide shot back. "Every time my team runs into a burning building, we're risking our lives. Don't lecture me about danger, Voight." The room fell silent again, the weight of their shared burden settling over them. Despite their differences, both men were driven by the same goal, protecting the people of Chicago, but their methods couldn't have been more different. The first joint operation between the intelligence unit and Firehouse 51 was a logistical nightmare. The plan was to stake out a suspected stash house that doubled as an illegal nightclub. The fire department had flagged the building for multiple code violations, making it the perfect cover for an arson investigation. Voight's team set up surveillance in an unmarked van parked a block away. Severide and Lieutenant Stella Kidd were stationed inside the fire engine, ready to respond if things went south. The uneasy alliance was evident in the terse radio exchanges. "We've got movement at the back entrance," Detective J. Halstead reported through the comms. "Looks like a delivery truck. Severide, you seeing this?" "Yeah, we see it," Severide replied. "We'll handle the fire hazards, you handle the suspects." Voight's voice cut in. "Just make sure your team's ready to move. We're not playing games tonight." The operation unfolded with military precision until it didn't. A sudden explosion rocked the building, sending flames and debris into the night sky. The suspects bolted in every direction and chaos ensued. Firefighters scrambled to contain the blaze while intelligence officers pursued the fleeing criminals. Severide and Kidd led their team into the inferno, navigating through smoke and collapsing debris. Meanwhile, Voight's unit worked to apprehend the suspects. The air was thick with heat, smoke, and the cacophony of shouting voices. In the middle of the chaos, Voight and Severide found themselves side by side, dragging an unconscious victim out of the building. For a brief moment, their differences were forgotten as they worked together to save a life. Outside, as paramedics tended to the victim, Voight and Severide exchanged a glance. It wasn't an apology, but it was an unspoken acknowledgement of mutual respect. Back at the district, the aftermath of the operation weighed heavily on everyone. 2 suspects had been captured, but several had escaped. The building was a total loss, and the cause of the explosion was still under investigation. Voight stood in the break room, nursing a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. Severide walked in, his soot-streaked face a testament to the night's events. "Hell of a night," Severide said, leaning against the counter. Voight grunted in agreement. "Could have gone worse." Severide studied him for a moment. "Look, I know we're never gonna see eye to eye on everything, but tonight proved we can work together when it counts." Voight nodded. "Yeah, just don't expect me to play nice all the time." Severide smirked. "Wouldn't dream of it." The 2 men shared a rare moment of camaraderie before returning to their respective teams. The tension between them hadn't disappeared, but it had shifted into something more constructive, a grudging respect forged in the crucible of a shared mission. As the days turned into weeks, the collaboration between the intelligence unit and Firehouse 51 continued. Each operation brought new challenges and new opportunities for friction, but it also brought successes that neither team could have achieved alone. For Voight, working with Severide was a constant exercise in patience. The firefighter's relentless optimism and adherence to protocol often clashed with his own more pragmatic approach. But he couldn't deny that Severide's commitment to his team and his city was unwavering. For Severide, Voight was a reminder that not every problem could be solved by following the rules. The sergeant's willingness to make tough calls, no matter the cost, was something he grudgingly admired, even if he didn't always agree with it. In the end, the crossover between Chicago PD and Firehouse 51 wasn't just about solving a case. It was about bridging the gap between 2 very different worlds, finding common ground in their shared mission to protect Chicago. And while the tension between Voight and Severide would likely never disappear entirely, it had become a driving force, pushing both men to be better, not just for themselves, but for the city they called home.